Hey, welcome to your next best step with Brek, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, and we take our next best step through real stories, practical strategies, and rooted leadership wisdom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, even the best leaders need a coach in their corner.
Well, hey, welcome to your next best step, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, take our next best step through real stories, practical strategies, rooted leadership wisdom. And I'm here to help you because everybody needs a coach in their corner. Today, I've got my good friend with me out of the below, Jamil Cruz. Jamil, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the locker room. I'm actually this is, I think, the first time I've gone on the road. I'm usually back in the below, in the locker room or in the lab, but I'm actually in my son's locker room. This is his space because we're down here celebrating. He just got engaged 2 nights ago.
Let's go, Caleb. Let's go. So proud of my boy.
The boy did himself well, man.
Yeah, listen, I just talked. I put up a post about him on social media earlier today, just congratulating him on his engagement. And I remember just when he was shorter than me when I met him,
Yeah.
so, and that says a lot, because I'm not the tallest person in the world, but to see how he's just grown into this incredible man, just a man of God, just really humble kid, just super talented. And now he has this beautiful woman that he's about to spend the rest of his life with. So I'm so excited for him.
Yeah, his mom and I are very, very proud and happy. And man, we love Brittany and a little backstory. We're going to jump into some things. Man, I'm excited. Now, for those you might think Cruz. I think that rings a bell. We had the Queen, Miss Sally Cole Cruz on not too long ago, and she did a great job, and she just blown up.
She really is. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is. So, but Jamil, for multiple things, you do multiple things. But one of the things you do is you're a photographer, videographer, podcaster, world-renowned DJ. You're like you. But when Caleb came home from college playing basketball, he had a camera that he had gotten. He was doing some side hustle at college, and he was customizing shoes. He bartered a pair of shoes for a phone so he could take pictures and put them on IG, post those things. Came home from after spring break, after basketball season, his junior year, and that's when the world shut down. And then he basically stayed for the summer, and that was his first summer 2020. He had never done any photography, had never done anything, but man, you kind of took him under his wing that summer, did some shoots, did some things, and really kind of was his first kind of mentor into that space, man. And so you actually have you got a coaching tree like Belichick and those guys.
That's super awesome. And it's incredible too. It's one of those situations when it comes to Caleb where the student has surpassed the teacher, right? He is doing some incredible work. Obviously his work is world renowned now, and I was just really grateful. You see something in someone, and you just want to help bring it out of them. And I had some things that I was working on at the time, and I remember this one particular shoot that we did together, and I still use a lot of those photos. This was maybe 5 years ago or so now,
Right.
and I still still use a lot of those photos because they were just so incredible, so just for a lot of my personal brand stuff, he has an eye. He certainly has an eye, and I was just
Where does
grateful
that
just to be a little part of
JC,
that journey.
where does that come from? Where does that eye? How does that?
It's just a gift. I think it's just a gift that's given, that's
Yeah.
given to you, right? Because not everyone has it,
No.
but when you have it, you just want to cultivate it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just something, when especially when you're a creative, right? It's something about creatives when you have that gift, you have that eye, you just want to do as much as you can just to get the vision from out of here out to the world,
Yeah.
right? So and yeah, I just think he was just one of those people he just had that gift, and again, I'm just grateful to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, it's and I think it kind of leads us into maybe our conversation a little bit because there's so many things I'd love for us to talk about and just how about just give our listeners kind of an overall before we jump into it, kind of an overall like you're in multiple areas of influence in our city, beyond our city. Where and I'm sure there's going to be some things you share that I'm like, I didn't know that. So give us a little bit of background, what you're doing, where you're kind of positioned at, and the influence that you have right now.
Yeah, sure. So I have this incredible business and venture that I've been running since 2017. When I first started, and I was still very green with it. But Cruise Control Media was birthed back in 2017, and at the time, I was doing a lot of like freelance website design for people. I was doing some event planning, some PR work, and things like that. And I wanted to combine all of those things together to offer those things as a service under one umbrella, right? So that's where Cruise Control Media was born. But then just shortly after that, I always had this thing where I wanted to kind of be in this media space, but I didn't necessarily want to work for anyone, right? So, but how can I create media, but also to while at the same time owning the IP around it. So that's when I fell into podcasting, right? And I started podcasting back in 2017. I'm sorry, 2018. And there's this photo that's floating around online somewhere where when I first started, I was in my little 2-bedroom apartment over in North Buffalo at the time,
Yeah, I remember.
and I had a bunch of old DJ equipment that I was just kind of putting all of these things together. I had no idea what I was doing, and my wife, she snapped this photo of me, and this was my first attempt at trying to do podcasting. In BC, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But I just love just the idea of actually creating, and it's a process of actually creating it. But not even for myself, because I'm kind of like the behind the scenes type guy, if
Yeah.
you want to believe it. I'm more about amplifying other people, other voices and such, right? So, and I wanted to be able to create a platform where I was able to do just that, where I was able to help amplify other people's voices. So that's when I created my podcast company called the PodHub. We launched in 2020. That's when I opened up my studio. But 2021 is when we officially launched, and we had the opportunity to do some incredible things with this company over the last 5 years, with just specifically the podcast division of the company. We've done some work all across the world. We've done things and produced for major conferences. We secured some major contracts in this podcasting space, and we actually just came off of a year-long run when I had a situation with NPR where I produced a show for them called Truth Be Told. So this was actually just like we wrapped up in December,
Oh wow.
and it's an incredible series, an audio series that I was able to produce for them. So So yeah, so I'm heavily invested into this podcasting space, but also just all things media, right? I mean, you mentioned like the video production. We still do offer event planning services for clients and such as well. But also too outside of those things, I'm very, as you know, I'm very rooted in community, right? So I'm doing a lot of things. I got my start in that when I was working in government. That's where when you and I met, I was still working in government at the time,
Yeah.
So, but I've since transitioned from there. I work for this amazing company called Say Yes Buffalo.
Amazing.
Yeah, you're very familiar with it, and our amazing leader. I know that you're good friends with. And I'm a senior communications manager over here. So a lot of the things that I do outside of Say Yes are also the same things that I do here inside Say Yes as well. So I've been incredibly blessed, man. I really have been, just to be able to kind of do what I love,
Yeah.
and to be able to do it in a way where none of this stuff feels like work to me. So I have the stuff that I do with Say Yes. It doesn't interfere with the things that I do outside of Say Yes. And it's just an amazing thing. And of course, I sit on a couple of boards as well. I'm the chairperson for the Buffalo AKG. It's an art museum. For those who don't know, here in the city of
Amazing.
Buffalo, world renowned art museum.
Absolutely.
I'm the chairperson for their community advisory council. Very active with my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I sit on the board for this organization called Project Bonus House, which is a human trafficking advocacy organization as well. So yeah, it's super rooted in community, while at the same time just trying to do all that I can to elevate my profile in this business sphere as well.
Dude, that's so good. So many things. Just a little plug with Say Yes and Dave Rust is to me like the premier leader in Buffalo. Just
Absolutely.
his humble approach, but very rooted, guided, intentional. We were just having a conversation and speaking about you, and and I was asking him, and this is for, hey, if you're a president, a CEO, vice president, you're over organizations, and this whole part remote, hybrid, the world that we're living in now, and so many times I'm talking with leaders, and they feel like they should own all parts
Mm,
of
mm,
their employees' lives, right?
mm. Oh my God, yes.
Which is such toxic leadership, right?
hmm
So
hmm
we won't even go there. But the thing that I love about Dave is he doesn't view you as a means to an end. He
hmm
sees his employees, the people, like these are human beings, and he encourages you to bring your whole self, that there's no competition. If Jamil is able to do all those things, he's even better at Say Yes. And the trust factor, I'm you know everything depends on trust. I truly believe that. Trust is the soil that all good things grow out of.
hmm
And we talked about this idea of trust, and if you're trying to control people, there's no trust in that. and
Absolutely.
and Dave, I think there's real trust because he's not trying to manage you. He's trying to actually elevate and amplify your word. um, and while good things are happening for Say Yes, good things are happening for you personally. So
Yeah, yeah. And it's incredible, that you mention these things because, I came, I worked in a situation like that before where, that trust just wasn't there, right? So I was just leave it at that,
yeah.
but to come over to an organization like Say Yes, where not only do they encourage me doing the things that I do outside of here, but they thoroughly support it. And also in that support, they see the things that I do outside of the company as a value add to the company,
Yes.
right? So, um, so again, I've had opportunities to actually leave Say Yes a few times, where I was approached by some reputable organizations and companies out here to try to get me to come over, and I'm like, absolutely not. Like,
Yeah.
I have a really good situation here, because you won't find many places like that. You won't find many leaders like a Dave Russ,
No.
So yeah, I'm and then also too the work that we're doing, right? Is super impactful, right? We're seeing like the transformation that's taking place here in the city of Buffalo on the education front, right? So and also and with Say Yes being a big part of of that transformation that's happening here,
Yeah.
so
Well, let talk a little bit about that because I don't know that our listeners, I've never really talked about it. And just this is our first episode in the month of February. Uh,
mhm.
and I, been here in Buffalo we moved here in '01. So we're here a quarter of a century. We've been here 25
Sheesh,
seasons. 25
sheesh.
seasons, not years, football seasons.
Right.
And so I wanted to this February series, I wanted to highlight specifically some amazing black leaders rooted in the below. And
hmm
I know that I mean that's you all the way to your toes. Speak a little bit about what Say Yes and what you guys are doing to help transform the city of Buffalo in the area of education and beyond.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Say Yes is a nonprofit. It's a partnership between uh, us and we have many different partners, right? But we're rooted in education, and our main mission is to remove the educational barriers that students may face, so they can have equal access, to higher education, good paying jobs, and things like that. So. When the organization was first launched a little over 10 years ago, it was launched as a scholarship organization. It had a scholarship promise. So for every student that went through a Buffalo Public School system, they would have the opportunity to receive some scholarships to go to college. We've since evolved from that. We offer just a wealth of services for students, for families here in the city of Buffalo. And even beyond, because we actually just launched our Say Yes Niagara Falls initiative as well. So we're growing and we're expanding in that way. But we have mentorship programs. We have our family support specialists where they actually work with people in the homes who are facing some of those extra barriers. We still have our scholarship promise. We have our workforce development program where we understand that higher education might not necessarily be a goal for everyone, once they graduate from high school. So how can we connect them to, real work opportunities? So we have this apprenticeship program where we have amazing partners that we work with, and we're giving these young people some real work experience. And, and a number of different things, our Boys and Men of Color initiative, where we work with young men between the ages of 12 to 24, and really getting them super involved on policy level and things like that. So it's just an amazing organization, and we've seen the impact. There's been measurable impact.
Yeah.
Prior to Say Yes, we were at a graduation rate, somewhere in the high 40%, right? Maybe somewhere around like 47, 48%. This was prior to Say Yes. And since Say Yes has been,
That was just all students. When you start breaking it down ethnicity wise,
oh, it's much higher than that.
it was way, yeah, like
Yeah.
whoa. So
Yeah, it'd be much higher, So, but since we came on board, and again, it's not solely just say we're not solely responsible for it.
yeah,
Again,
right.
the
Teachers, parents,
secret,
the community.
yeah.
It's an all scape for sure. But you
We
guys
we
added
always say
impact.
that we always say that partnerships are our secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where they talk about it takes a village, right? So it takes all hands on deck. But now we're seeing those graduation rates a little over 80% now, it's working. The work that we're doing here is having real measurable impact, and we're looking to continue to expand this work, right? Because we understand that there's still pockets of the community that that we still have to touch, so we're doing all that we can on our end, working with the different partners that we have, but this is been an incredible value add to the city of Buffalo since its inception.
For sure. JC, man, give us a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit about your story, where kind of where your roots are, and then we're going to jump into some leadership stuff. But I wanted people to kind of hear your backstory, that which will influence like the leadership stuff that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I was, born in Buffalo. I was born here, so a bunch of years ago. I just had a birthday, but a bunch of years ago I was born here in Buffalo. But I spent a good part of my childhood in Washington, D.C. That's where my mom is from. Both of my brothers were born in D.C. as well. So we spent a good part of the childhood down there. We had a good family dynamic. Raised by a single mom, but we had family around us, right?
Yeah.
It was a bunch of us that lived in the house together. It was like my mom, my brothers, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin. It was a lot of us that lived in the household together. So we just had real family values. But our family had their challenges at the same time, right? So and this was during the time my transition between Washington, D.C. and Buffalo, this was still during the height of the crack epidemic, right? So, and a lot of my family was affected by it. I had my uncle who lived in the house with us as well down in D.C. He was murdered in a drive-by shooting, and 3 months later to the day, after his transition, my grandmother passed away in the house right after we had Thanksgiving dinner. She died of a heart attack, right? So, my mom always says that, she just feels like that she just died from a broken heart, just from losing her son, right? So, but after all of that happened, there was a fight between my mom and her siblings on who was going to get the house, that we were all living in. My mom didn't prevail, right, and ended up moving us into a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C., right, and we lived there for maybe about a year or so, and then from there we transitioned into one of the roughest parts of Washington, D.C. at the time. It's a lot different now, but at the time, it was a extremely, extremely rough part of Washington, D.C. that we lived in. And again, this was during the height of the crack epidemic. So it was just a lot of that activity that was taking place. And my mom, she didn't want to keep us in that environment. So she moved us to Buffalo in the early 90s. And unbeknownst to us, when we because my father is from Buffalo, right? My father, his entire side of the family, and unbeknownst, to us when we first came, we still were dealing with those challenges. My dad, he had his challenges with drug addiction and things like that. So, and my mom, she had problems with alcoholism, right? So, just kind of grew up just, one of those kind of hood tales where, grew up with, not a lot at all. It was very challenging for us growing up, and my brothers, they decided that they wanted to kind of take a different route, and was affected by that, because I had, both of my brothers were affected by, criminal justice system, and ended up spending some long stretches in prison, and that kind of left me at a young age to kind of be the man of the house, right? And that was a huge load for. I don't think it's fair for anyone, right? Especially at that young of an age to be robbed of their childhood, right?
Yeah.
So, but I had to do what I had to do. I still had a younger brother to, to look after. Still had a mother who had her challenges at the time. But my out was education, right? That was the out for me. There was no way, and I had plenty of opportunities to kind of go that street route,
Yeah.
but I just, God just put a vision on me, in me, to show me that like there was a life that was so much bigger
Mm-hmm.
than that in those circumstances at the time.
Yeah.
I just had to be obedient and just had to be patient, right? So education was my out. First person in my family to go to college. Went to University of Buffalo, got kicked out of UB. I just wasn't, my head wasn't in it, because I'm
Yeah.
still worrying about everything that was going on back at home. So I got kicked out of UB. No one knew I got kicked out of UB, because I was still on campus, right? I was still in clubs and organizations and things like that. I was able to talk to a couple of professors. They let me sit in on classes, even though I wasn't a matriculating student. And, they changed. I went through the whole semester in both of those classes. Which lifted my GPA up. That's how I got back into UB. And I didn't look back after that.
There
I'm
you go.
like, I am not playing that again. So graduated from UB back in 2005, and just worked a couple of different jobs. My first job out of college was at the radio station at WBOK. I was working in marketing and sales. My goal was to never stay in Buffalo though. It was always like, okay, I want to leave, right?
Wow.
I tried to leave for a little bit. I went down to New York City because that was always the goal for me. Things didn't work out right away, but I'm like, I'm just going to come back to Buffalo. Just trying to get my bearings together, and the goal was always to go back. But at that time, that's when I met my now wife. So it's something about it's this magnetic pull that women have on you sometimes. So um, and I just made a life for myself here, and I'm like, you know what, instead of complaining about all of the things that's lacking here in the city of Buffalo, let me try to be a catalyst of change, right? Let
Mm-hmm.
me try to be the person to kind of help create the life that I wanted to see for myself, I know other people wanted to see as well. So that that's what I did. That's when I worked in government for a while. I got my hand into a lot of different entrepreneurial ventures and such, and different type of events that I've produced and planned over the years.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, I just, for me, it was always like, I just wanted to be an agent of change, and I just had that mindset where, if I don't have the life that I want, I'm going to create it.
Yeah. Man, that's so interesting, Jamil. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Here we are. It's February 2026. Man, so much is going on in our country, our world, and to be honest, like our city.
hmm hmm
Buffalo has there's so much goodness in Buffalo, but there's also so much trauma that's happened in our city, in our
hmm
neighborhoods. And one of the things I appreciate about you is how you haven't been just a leader, like you're rooted in the community. Like you follow through. You lift people up. Like you're not trying to grow. You don't have an agenda that's based like everything I'm doing is so that Jamil Cruz gets bigger and better. Like man, you're for people. You value people, and so I just see you as one of and not so young anymore, so
Not
young,
quite.
but one of our young leaders in Buffalo. But man, one of the things that I wanted to do is I just wanted to. I'm proud of the city I've had the chance to live in for the last 25 years, and I'm a bit in awe of specifically. There's been lots of leaders that I've met, but specifically Black leaders in the city of Buffalo who are doing like real hard work and not a lot of glitz and glam coming their way because of it, but they're still, I mean, you mentioned Kelly Diane, like
Mm-hmm.
still in it, right? And Kyrie, our brother Kyrie, and
Mm-hmm.
other good leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's can we just talk about what does it mean to be a Black leader in our city and in our country in this moment today in the country, in the city? I don't want to put all of that on you for sure, but can we, let's, how do we talk about that?
Yeah, I think it starts by, just acknowledging the fact that that we still do have and we face some major challenges right now, right?
Mm,
Uh, with and I don't want to get too deep into the politics of it, but we recognize that, under this this administration on a national level,
mm,
there's like this unprecedented attack against Black and brown people,
mm.
right? So we have to just be honest in
Yeah.
acknowledging that, right? But also in that acknowledgement, we have to recognize and realize that there are people in communities who are still dedicated to doing the work to be those agents of change in the community, right? So, and for me, um, and you kind of mentioned it a bit, but um, I've always had like this kind of selfless, it's things. It's not about me,
Yeah.
right? It's things are not about me.
No,
I, I
it's not.
I've had some unfortunate circumstances that I had to experience in life, dealing with family and a bunch of other issues and such. But I've also had some amazing things happen to me.
Mm,
I've had some incredible opportunities that happen in my life, and I just realized that it's no we have an obligation. We have an obligation to make sure that we are reaching that hand back and
mm.
bringing people along with us. We have to lift as we climb. We have to do that. Because there are people, and sometimes people like me. I was a person who, yes, while I felt like that I had the intelligence and I had the chops to really be something in this world. Sometimes it was just the opportunities that were lacking, right? And just having access to those opportunities. And I know that one, I did work to be where I am right now, but there were also people that were in my life
Yeah.
that help provide these opportunities that kind of help me get to the place in my life where I am right now. So with that, I think I will be doing a disservice, to not only to myself but to my community if I didn't provide those same opportunities for people.
Mm,
Right. So we have to be selfless in it. We have to lift as we climb. Um, you know, Again, we know that these challenges are they're real. They're
yeah.
very real right now, right? So, um, but there are people out here. There are people people who don't necessarily look like me, who are still, you know, advocates for change. There are people who they're those allies, right? I look at someone like yourself. I look at someone like a Dave Russ, right? We don't look alike, but we have similar shared values, right? And we have to lean on one another. We really have to lean on one another, in order to effectuate some change, that change that we want to see, right? So, but it's going to take for us to do the hard work sometimes, and we're going to have to roll up our sleeves, be willing to kind of get in the mess with some people, and listen, I am not void of getting into like controversial stuff with people, and sometimes people that look like me, you
Yeah.
know but at the same time, I know where my heart is. I think God knows where my heart is, and I do things from a very selfless place. I just want to make sure that that my community has all of the things that they need to rise up and just to be the best version of themselves. And sometimes it just takes just providing those opportunities to people. So that's what it is for me. I just really want to make sure that I am being a true connector of people, right? And connecting people
Yeah.
to opportunities, so they can, live the best version of their lives, and then they can in return pay it forward and do it for someone else. Right,
Yeah.
because we have to realize that there's going to be generations that's coming behind us that's going to need that same assistance, right? So we have to make sure that we're paying that stuff forward, the things that were provided for us, that we're paying it forward.
Jamil, that's so good. Can you remember, Jamil, like a moment, maybe it was as a teenager, I don't know, but maybe somebody saw in you for the first time that leadership potential, and you maybe in just some small way, maybe it was a teacher, a coach, I don't know, but how somebody saw something in you that, like, who you, like, you see me, you hear me, you
Mm-hmm.
validate. Do,
Mm-hmm.
do you have I'm sure there's multiple times like that when you reflect on it, but what were one of those first kind of moments where some leader kind of saw you for who you were and saw this potential in you?
I have two words. This man's name is Dwayne Hodges.
Mm,
Oh my God. I actually just spoke to him a couple of days ago. I get emotional sometimes, even when I just bring his name up,
wow.
because I'm getting goosebumps now as I'm even talking about this. But yeah, he and I were just talking. He called me the other day for my birthday,
Mm,
and his birthday is actually 2 days before mine, and we were just kind of catching up. And he's always that person, even to this day. 30 years later, after I met this man, he still speaks life into me,
yeah.
right? And I have so much respect and admiration for this guy because he truly took me under his wing, right?
Like,
He saw something.
what was that in that moment? How old were you? Give us a little bit about how that happened.
Yep. So I was 15 years old at the time.
Mm.
And my dad, actually introduced me to this program called the Upward Bound program.
Oh,
It was a program. It was based. Well, the one that I went to, it was based out of the University of Buffalo, right?
okay.
So that's where it was housed, and they did. It was uh, a after school program, but also too we had a summer component to it as well, right? So, and in that summer component, that's when my dad first introduced me to it, and so I had the opportunity to move away from home for the summer, move on campus to get kind of like that real college experience.
Wow.
And this is when I met Mr. Hodges, and he just almost immediately took me under his wing,
Mm.
and became. It was much more than a mentor mentee relationship. He was literally like a father to me, and
Mm.
it still is to this day.
Yeah.
He calls me Junior, like to this day. So that's what he calls me.
Wow.
And again, he just saw something in me. He saw that that I had like real potential. He saw that that I really had what it took to just be really successful in this thing called life.
Mm.
And he just wanted to do his part into kind of helping to bring that out of me. So it's just, that mentorship, that guidance that I got from him. Listen, I still, there are things that he taught me 30 years ago that I still apply to this day.
Wow.
There's this quote that he always told me. He always used to tell me, Junior, just always remember, anytime you go through things in life, that your setback is just a setup for a comeback. And tough times don't last, but tough people do. And I'm telling you, in every speech that I give, I've done a lot of
I've heard
amazing
you say
speeches.
that, right? That's the genesis of that from you.
Yes, that
That's
it came
wow.
from there. Yep. Every speech that I give, I gave the commencement address at the University of Buffalo,
Yeah.
surprisingly, right? And I say surprisingly because again, I got kicked out of there. I got back in, and I gave the commencement address. And every speech that I give, every time I have an opportunity to do a talk to anyone, I always reference that at the end of my talks, right? And try to tie it into what it is that we're talking about. So having that and having someone like him in my life and just exposed me to new things and different things as well,
Yeah.
right? Because I was a guy who was just used to the four walls of my community. That was it. So wasn't going much. I mean, my first time on an airplane was with these guys when I actually went back to Washington D.C. Right. So and again, I'm so eternally grateful for that program, but more specifically, Mr. Hodges, because he didn't have to do that for me.
Right.
He didn't. There were so many other students that went through this program, but
Yeah.
he took a liking to
It's all
me
you.
because he saw something in me, and I can never. Listen. I remember when I graduated from college, and he moved from Buffalo. He moved down initially he had moved to Iowa to take a job at a college out there. And then he ended up settling down in where he is now in North Carolina. And he surprised me for my graduation. So he came up, and I'm walking across the stage. I got my cap and gown, I got my
Yeah.
shades on, just walking by like I'm cool and everything. And then I look at the end of the stage, BC, and I see this man with his little Polaroid camera just smiling ear to ear. I mean, he just has the most beautiful, brightest smile. And when I tell you, I ran and jumped into this man's arms. Oh my
Oh,
God, I'm getting emotional just thinking
yeah.
about it, man.
Man.
I mean, it was just like, oh my God, because I hadn't seen him in a few years,
Yeah.
so and he made sure that he was there for me on that day, so yeah, I appreciate him more than words can say right now.
Wow, our brains they're so powerful. There's two questions our brains are always asking, and when we go into especially any kind of a new space, or we're in front of new faces, right? And so this is whether we're little, adolescent, middle school, high school, or adult. And the first question our brain asks is, "Am I safe?
Mm-hmm.
Am I safe?"
Mm-hmm.
And we burn calories trying to see if we're safe, if we're going to be
Mm-hmm.
safe. And the second question is the question, the deepest question that we always have is, "Am I loved? Am I
Mm-hmm.
safe, and am I loved?"
Mm-hmm.
And "am I loved" is manifested, meaning this: if I'm loved, then I'm seen, I'm heard, and validated.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yes.
leaders create safe spaces that allow that deeper question, "Am I loved?" Is this a place where I can actually be seen for me, that people will hear me and actually validate who I am?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing the power of that kind of presence in our lives. And that's what Mr. Hodges did for me. He answered both those questions. You're safe with me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're loved. I see you. And what's crazy is we live in such a freaking perverse world with Epstein files and all this kind of stuff, that you can't even hardly, like, there is legitimacy for adults to create safe spaces
Mm-hmm.
and to create environments and experiences where kids can be safe and they can be loved
Mm-hmm.
without it being weird, wrong, sexual, anything like that.
Yeah.
We live in such a perverse world that we can't even hardly say those things without people raising an eyebrow, which is
Mm.
so unfortunate. It's
It
to
is.
it's to our loss, right? And you think about what he did for you, and how that has impacted you. That is still echoing in and through you today.
And I feel like I have to do that for other people now because
Yes,
it was done for me.
yes,
Right. And I try to be very intentional with my relationships in making sure that I'm creating that safe space for people.
yeah,
Right. I'm very, very, very intentional around that because I want just that. I want people to feel safe and I want them to feel loved. Even, and you have people who've been through some things and are still going through some things, right? And sometimes, they don't necessarily feel that. They don't necessarily feel safe. They don't necessarily feel like that no one truly ever loved them. I always tell my friends, I tell all my friends all the time that I love them. I don't care who it is. My guy friends, my female friends, whoever, I always tell them that I love them because and I genuinely mean it, because I just want to be, that person. If they don't feel like that they get it from anyone else,
Yeah.
they know that they can get that from me, and I'm creating that environment for them for that, so yeah, I think that's really important. And again, it's because how it was given to me. I'm like, I will be a fool not to try to, provide that reciprocity to someone else, so.
Doing, when we're able to do for others what's been done for us,
Hmm.
beautiful thing. Sometimes we got to do for others what we wish somebody had done
Absolutely.
for us, right? So here's the flip side. Have you ever had a toxic leader? Have you ever worked? You don't have to name names. This is public, but like, so I just wanted to kind of like flip the script. Like that's an experience where a leader saw you invested, safe, all of those things. What about a leadership environment, a work environment where you did not feel safe, where
Mm.
you did not feel that love, like the trust was not there. You didn't feel seen, heard, validated. You felt like maybe you were a means to an end,
Hmm.
like it was all about production, and if you didn't produce, then maybe you've never worked for somebody like that. I don't know if you're part of that environment. What?
Oh yes, I certainly have, and it was unfortunate too because um, I've always just wanted to uh, I always want to bring value to anything that I'm a part of,
Yeah.
any organization that I'm a part of, any work environment that I'm a part of. I just want to because I feel like that I was blessed with an immense amount of talent, and resources that I know that can kind of help elevate anything that I'm a part of. And that's not me being cocky or ignorant, or arrogant or anything like that. It's just really just me just stating, this is just what
Yeah.
it is, right? So, um, and when when you try to give yourself, to your place of work or an organization, and you feel like that you're not getting that same respect in return, it's hard to show up as the best version of you
Mm,
in that space,
yeah.
right? And you start to hear things where people, um, your character is questioned,
Mm,
or the value that you bring, that you think that you can bring, but people try to diminish that value.
yeah.
Um, it, it, it makes you not want to be a part of that environment anymore, so and again, yeah, I've certainly dealt with that on a number of occasions, through work, through
Yeah.
organizational things that I've been a part of. And
What would you say to a leader who's struggling in that right now? And I think one of the things we used to say at RC, right, is like, hey, give a percentage of your time, talent, and treasure.
mhm,
Because that's not for us to own, it's for us to steward, to manage with open hands, right?
right, right.
So so when there's leaders out there in organizations, maybe it's work, maybe it's volunteer, and they want to steward, they want to bring value to that organization, but somehow leadership doesn't see it, they're not respectful of it, maybe it's a toxic. What would you say to leaders out there who are in that kind of specific scenario?
I would, and honestly, and I'm just going to be frank. I would tell people to go where you're appreciated, not just where you're tolerated. Right? That's it. I mean, and life is just too short, man.
Yeah.
Life is too short for us to be in spaces and places where, we don't feel fulfilled,
Mm,
right? We don't feel valued.
Yeah.
And for what? Because we feel like that we have to do it because like, we're trying to provide, for our families or, and that's often what it is, right? People are
Sure.
in these situations because like there's a paycheck that's attached to it. And they feel that if they separate themselves from that, then their livelihood is going to be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So that's what I think that's the root of it
Sure.
there. So and again, I felt that way, and then but then you have people who try to gaslight you and manipulate you in a way to have you think that, your value is only good as you working in this toxic environment.
Yeah.
And you just have to realize that the grass is green. I promise you guys, listen to me when I'm telling you, the grass is greener on the other side.
It
It
is.
really
It
is.
can be, right?
It really
So,
is.
so many times.
So like you
But
don't have to be in these situations. You really do not. You have a choice.
yeah.
You literally have a choice. You have to decide what you want to do, right? So and for me, I knew that, in one or two situations that I was in, I realized that I kind of had to step away for a bit,
Yeah.
right? I had to kind of step off for a little bit and just so I can kind of get, I needed to find myself again because I started to get lost in believing these things that I was hearing about myself, so
It's so true,
and
man. I mean, like you've grown up in Buffalo, but I would say Buffalo has, Don. We actually got to go down to Nashville and
oh
we did a
yeah.
trip together. Remember that before the
Yeah, dude, that was
pandemic?
amazing.
And it was amazing. And Don at Story Brand Miller talked about the four characters in every great story, every great
Yeah.
movie. Right? There's the
Hmm.
victim, the villain, the hero, and the guide.
Hmm.
And he talks about the victim being not a victim like to necessarily like to violence or something like that, but a victim energy, meaning this is my lot in life, this is how it's always going to be. And he talks about like, man, and Brene Brown talks about this, like when we sense that victim energy within us, the language we say, right? It's also slash scarcity energy
Hmm.
versus abundance.
Hmm. Absolutely.
But but man, Buffalo is still second or third poorest city in America, right? It's still there is a when there is generational deep poverty, which there still is in our city, unfortunately, there's
Hmm.
still gaps, still pockets, and that's generational, right? And generational scarcity, not renter mindset versus owner mindset.
Hmm. Hmm.
Man, it is hard to break that mindset of scarcity. So when somebody says, well, yeah, that's easy for you, Jamil, grass is greener, like you get an opportunity, but I just gotta take what I can get. It's really hard for people who maybe are coming out of maybe not in an upwardly mobile scenario or environment, and it's just so hard for them to even see the grass on the other side, much
Hmm.
less believe that the grass is greener on the other side.
Hmm.
What do you speak into that for folks that, because I know you do.
Yeah, and I understand. I understand, and I have empathy for, those people who sometimes can't see themselves out of the current circumstances that they're in, and believe me though, I am not speaking from a place of privilege at all.
Mm,
I didn't have anything growing up.
mm,
I literally I had nothing growing up. I was homeless. I was homeless multiple times. I was
mm,
homeless like, as an adult, so but I just realized that there were certain things that there was this paradigm shift in how I had to think about things, right?
mm.
I had to have this radical shift in my thinking, right? Because um, I'm a firm believer that, so a man or woman thinketh he becomes or she becomes,
Ah,
right? So
yeah.
like I'm a firm believer in that, so um And for me, for a long time, I was, I was always thinking just like from the glass kind of half empty type mentality, right? I was always thinking about, all of the woe is me, just the negative aspects of life. And I realized, where I was, I looked at where I was in my life at the time. Excuse me. I looked at where I was in my life at the time and everything that was happening to me. And I looked at how I was thinking. And I'm like, okay, there's a parallel there. There's something there, right? So let me just shift a little bit how I think about things.
Shift. I love that.
Let me just shift a little bit. And then when I started to shift a little bit, my life started getting a little better. Right. So I'm like, okay, let me continue to shift. And as I'm continuing the shift, I noticed that my life just started to turn around. So I really think it starts with us, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one's coming to save us, guys. Like, it's, and I'm a person who sometimes, we have to take that tough love approach and just kind of just be honest with people. No one's coming to save us,
Yeah.
right? So we have to do our part in making sure that we are, being those that agents of change in our own lives.
Yeah.
In our own lives, right? Because if if no one else is going to do it for us, if we can't do it for ourselves, then who's going to do it for us, right? So we just have to like have this complete paradigm shift in how we think about things, how we think about life, how we approach life. And I promise you, once you start thinking about things different, you're going to start putting yourself, things are going to start shifting, right? People are going to start coming in your life.
Yeah.
Certain types of people are going to start coming in your life, right? And then once those people start coming in your life, then you'll start to see like more shifting starting to happen, right? But you have to do the work.
Yeah.
You have to do the work though. You have to be the one you got to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, no one's going to show up for us.
Well, I went to Onsite. It's a 7-day group therapy experience environment, and I had just stepped out of pastoring. I've been pastoring for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had, pastored specifically in the city of Buffalo, a church that that you were a part of, and you and Sally. And man, there's lots of trauma, lots of stuff that happens in a pastor's world that people don't even think about. So much death. I mean, I don't know how many funerals I did for moms of their sons being murdered, suicides, a lot of joy, but lots of trauma. And so I knew, as this new season of life for me, like, man, I need to take care of some internal stuff. I want to make sure that I as I'm moving into this new season, that I'm the best version of me in my 60s that I can be. I don't want to be the best version back when I'm a 50 or 40. I still, I want to be the best pops I can be, and dad and husband, right? And so one of the things they talk about there at Onsite is, and I've got the card on my wall in my office, 2% shift. And they talk about if you took off from Los Angeles and you flew and you were flying to Boston, that if you were off just 2%, you would land like in New York City. Close, but not there, right? And the power of consistently showing up for yourself, the 2%, those little shifts, just showing up. I mean, hey, you inspired me last year. I'm watching you next level. You're in there, right? And I'm like, man, if my boy JC's in there, I can't sit there in 26 going, man, I want to get healthier. I want to be like, I had to like walk through that damn yellow door. And I don't like walking because I know what's on the other side of that thing.
Absolutely.
But when I walk back out of it, it's come on now. I'm like, oh yeah, that was worth that 45 minutes. And then other people like you and I met another lady. She's 62. She looks like fit as can be. Like
Hmm.
is inspiring, right? And just
Hmm.
helping people know the consistency of little. It's not big. It's showing up, being consistent in the little things, just little shifts is so important, man. Right?
Absolutely, 1,000%. That is there's real power in consistency. There's real power in and just again just showing up for yourself. You use the example, with the fitness. That was probably one of the areas that I was the most inconsistent in my life.
Mm,
And I got tired. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
yeah.
And I had to tell myself, like, Jamil, nothing is going to change if nothing changes. So you can keep
Mm,
saying that you want to,
right.
you want to get fit, and you're getting all this inspiration from people, and you're following all of these fitness influencers online and thinking like, okay, you're holding on to old clothes, hoping that you're going to fit them again at some point. So but if you're not showing up for yourself, then nothing's going to change,
Yeah.
right? And I had to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? I have to show up for myself. And that's been, even just that example alone, just with on the fitness side of things, it's been one of the most successful areas for me over the last couple of years,
Mm,
right? Because I want to say about maybe the last, a little over a year, about a year and some change now, because I've been showing up. I've made this a lifestyle, a true part of my lifestyle,
yeah.
and I'm seeing the results.
Right.
I'm fitting those old clothes that I used to that I kept in my closet, hoping that I
Yeah.
was going to be able to fit one
Yeah.
day, right? I'm seeing like definition and things like that, and I'm getting up. I was never a morning person. I'm getting up. I was up at 4:30 this morning. Trying to get to the gym. Not trying. I made it to the gym.
Yeah.
But I'm doing all of these things that I hadn't, I wasn't doing before. So there's real power in consistency.
Yeah.
Um, and our trainers in his old gym, he used to have this on the wall. He used to have, like, it was just spray painted in graffiti, and it said consistency is the cheat code.
Mm,
So we just have to understand it's like constantly showing up for ourselves and being consistent at it, and just chipping away at it, just one bite at a time. They say, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite at a time, right? So and then because eventually you'll eat that entire elephant, right? So you just got to do the little things. You have to do the little things, but you consistently do those little things, and that's going to turn into just like something major that's happening in your life.
yeah.
So you got to show up for yourself and be consistent with it.
Jamil, man, what are you? We've man, we're already man, it's been so good. We can talk a lot about a lot of different things. What um BC leadership? Now everybody calls me BC. That's my name, right? My initials, which I love. But when I named BC Leadership Co., I named it not only just for my initials, but I named it because of really the core of what I think leadership should be grounded in. Most leaders
Hmm.
feel like they should be grounded in certainty. I believe we should be grounded in curiosity.
Hmm. Hmm.
Be curious, right?
Mm. That's
What
good, BC.
what are what's something you're still curious about?
I'm still curious about life, man. I don't have this thing figured out
Mm,
just yet, right? I really don't. I'm relatively a new dad, right?
mm,
I have a 3-year-old going on 4. It feels like 3 going on 30,
yeah,
so, but,
young
so,
adult.
and that was new for me. Like, my wife and I have been together, 18 years, been married for 15 this year. And,
Mm,
so we were late bloomers when it comes
yeah.
to being parents, right? So for me, I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still trying to navigate fatherhood, right? And
Mm,
trying to figure out all of the nuances with fatherhood, and showing up. When can I show up? When are the sacrifices I have to make for my family? And what are some of those sacrifices that I have to make, for my family? And I'm not going to be able to be at everything, that's why I give much respect and honor to my wife, because she is an amazing mother, and she
mm,
holds it down. She absolutely holds it down. So, but I'm still trying to figure out that part, and I feel like I'm doing a good job, at being a dad, but could I be doing a better job? Absolutely. I think we all could be doing a better job, um, but yeah, just, the thing is where we are in life right now, where I am at this tender age at 45 right now, um, I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So things are constantly evolving in life, so for me, it's just like, okay, this new version of who I am right now, I'm still trying to learn this person, because I'm not used to this person who I was before. I wasn't a dad 5 years ago, right? I wasn't the business, I didn't have the business acumen or the business leadership that I had, 10 years ago that I do now. Right. So it's just like, I'm still trying to learn these things, as I go along. And sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's really tough, but, I'm just really intentional around making sure that I'm putting myself around the right people. I have the right mentorship and, just right people just kind of speaking life into me, because I need that as well. They always, there's this thing where people say, like, who do the strong people go to when they need, when they need that counsel, and I've been trying to, I spent years trying to figure that out, but I'm really fortunate that, I have, people like you in my life, people like Dwayne Hodges that I still have in my life 30 years later, and even friends and family that I have and people that I learn from. And that's for me too, is I always feel like that I'm always going to be a student, of life. Right. And I'm never going to be one to feel like that I have it all figured out, because I don't. I absolutely don't. There's still areas of my life that I struggle at. I struggle big time with. But I'm giving myself some grace. I'm having some patience. And at the center of all of that is my faith. Making sure that I'm staying rooted in my faith, because throughout everything that I've ever been through in life, I think the thing that has gotten me through all of the challenges, all of the obstacles in life, is my faith in God, and just my relationship with God, and having like this healthy fear of God, right? And just going to Him when I know, like, okay, if all else fails, when I can't find what I need in this worldly space, I know that He's the source for everything, right? So, and I think because of that, I've been able to have like I've been able to overcome some major challenges in my life, some major obstacles in my life, and He's kept me. He's kept me, and like, I'm no different from all of the people that I grew up with. No different at all. So what? Why? I always used to ask myself, why me? Why me? Right? And I just kind of chalked it up to, like, because I'm still rooted. This is where my foundation is right here. That's where my foundation is. So yeah, I'm just like, man, I don't have all the answers, Brek. I clearly don't, but and I'm still trying to figure some things out in life, but I'm grateful for where I am right now, and I'm grateful for where I'm going, and I'm grateful for just the people that I have around me that's gonna, we can help one another get to where we want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dude, man, it's so good. I appreciate you spending some time on here with me, and we've been talking about it. I've been talking about doing this podcast for a long time. And
Yeah.
I've talked to you about various versions of it. And, last summer, I was early summer, spring, I had, some goals and some things. And I'm like, I've been talking about doing this thing for so long, and I just need to do it. I always gave myself an excuse, the money, or the time, or whatever. And your guy David Shands did a little, I don't know, little webinar kind of thing, and I
Yeah,
jumped on
workshop.
there.
Yeah.
And because I remember you brought him into Buffalo, and
He's coming back too.
oh really?
Yeah, he's coming back in May.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
have to talk
Yeah, we'll
offline.
talk about that
Yeah.
offline.
And he just simply said, "Hey, if you got a phone, you got a podcast."
Yeah,
And he
it's a
took all
fact.
the excuses away. for me. And he said, just do it. Stop talking, right? And so I think this is episode 24, brother.
Come on, BC, let's go.
Come on.
And you know, for podcasting, the average, before people start to see the falling off, I think it's around around 20, 21 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you surpass that,
There you
so
go. It's not
that's incredible.
it's not a very high bar to cross over. But to our point, showing up consistently, man. Right.
Yeah,
And
for
it's
sure.
it's doing the work consistently. Dude, man, I love you so much. And
Love you too,
so
BC.
glad that we've got history, we got receipts, brother.
Absolutely. For
We
people, I
got
mean,
receipts,
listen,
man.
yeah,
And
BC and I, we go back, man, and yeah, we have he's one of those he's as real as it gets. I have so much respect for him and his leadership, and how he truly pours into other people. I know he's done so much for me, and providing me opportunities and just the wisdom and guidance, in life, and just an amazing person, amazing family, just. Man, I'm just so grateful that I have you. I can say that I have you in my life, so
well,
so
man,
thank you.
blessings. Jamil, we love you, man. And hey, if any part of this conversation maybe spoke to you, man, share it with some folks. Come subscribe, YouTube, all the different channels, and then hey, this is kind of like the coaching I do. We really unpack. It's Jamil. I really believe like if we get the root work, the fruit will work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we spend so much time on the fruit work and we wonder why the fruit's not working. And I help leaders kind of put some emphasis and let's go back to the root. And when we can understand value based, like I love working with leaders so that they're valued centered, not outcome centered. And when we are value centered, we operate different. Transactional is not how we're going to show up because we value people, right? And because people are valuable. So, hey, if you'd like to chat about coaching, jump over to my website, bcleadership.com. We'd love to have a conversation. Until the next time, man, keep hanging in there. Thank you for being a part of the podcast today. Jamil, thank you, buddy. Love you. Appreciate you.
Love you too, man. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.